for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Alt? Here. Mr. Beistel? Here. Mr. Carson?
Here.
Mr. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Polakowski? Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? Here. Mrs. Love? Kaylee Whitlash? Here. Dylan Obolinski?
Here.
For the record, Mr. Polakowski and Mrs. Love contacted me. They would not be available, as well as Mr. Marnell.
Citizens' comments?
Michelle Williams?
Michelle Williams. I live at 208 North Chestnut Street. I just want to comment on Mr. Marnell's absence again tonight. Like, we're talking about the budget. It's a pretty big deal. His absence right now is appalling. So, just saying. Last meeting, Mr. Masha, you stated that Southmoreland is a good school district.
If I may, Madam President, Mr.
Yes.
Marnell had a serious family emergency at the last meeting and had a long-standing scheduled absence for this meeting. And I just feel that that is not a fair comment.
Where's Mrs.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not commenting on it.
I'm sorry, it might not be a fair comment, but we are in dire straits here, and we are faced with having to vote on a budget, and
Well,
the person that can answer the questions...
vote is not tonight, so...
I know it's not tonight. I'm just commenting. I'm entitled to my comment. I'm sorry.
And I wanted that information available for the rest of the public.
So last meeting, Mr. Masha, you stated that Southmoreland is a good school district. I do not deny that. If I didn't think that my son was receiving quality education here, we would just be pulling him out, and I wouldn't be here tonight. The problem is we strive for greatness, ourselves and for our children. I believe our school district should be striving for greatness as well. As we discuss more cuts to our budget, I would hope you would find a way to communicate with the staff. Honestly, we don't see that happening. You made cuts to special education without discussing it with teachers. Last year, you made cuts to coaching staff without talking to the coaching staff. The safety of our children is an increasing concern. You spoke last meeting of cutting the 4 building substitutes. I don't see how this makes sense. You have 4 dedicated employees. These building subs do way more than teach. Often there's a day that they have divided between classrooms. If they're not being used in the teaching capacity, they are being used in other ways. Believe me, they do not stay in those positions because the money is good. They aren't staying because of the benefits. They stay because it works for them right now, and they're hoping beyond hope that they remain dedicated to our district. They will one day have a permanent position. On any random day, you could see that we are doubling up on classrooms. There was even a day recently, 75 children were placed in one classroom. 75. That means ESS did not provide 2 substitutes for those classrooms. So they're placed in the care of one teacher. I question many things about that situation. One, what if there was a fire? How would they all get out? How would one teacher manage 75 children outside of the building? According to 55.1 of the Pennsylvania Code, there shall be a minimum of 25 square feet of floor space per child. I cannot imagine that we are anywhere near that when we are adding 2 and 3 classes together. 55.13 of the Pennsylvania Code states that for grade 4, no more than 30 children should be in the care of one teacher at one time. These numbers change for kindergarten through 3rd grade. 25 students per teacher and 30 square feet of floor space. We have done shelter-in-place drills. How in the world are we going to shelter 75 children in place in a classroom? Are there answers to that? I mean, I'm wondering if we've applied for emergency permit for substitute teachers. Have we done that? Mr. Masha, have we applied for emergency permits? Okay, so we're not going to answer, okay? I'll assume that we haven't. Why haven't we? How much are we paying ESS per teacher? I know that ESS pays $100, but what do we pay ESS? Unfortunately, we need to find a way to be paying the teacher more. If I was a substitute, I would not be wanting to sub in a district where I stood no chance of being hired permanent. I would go to, say, Norwin, where they replaced all retiring teachers. Let's face it, most people sub to get their foot in the door. However, they still need to pay their bills. We have put teachers in a truly tough spot, a spot where they feel they cannot say anything for fear of their program being cut. Yet we continually put more and more on them. And by more, I mean providing supplies for their classroom, picking up extra students because ESS did not provide a sub.
You have 30 seconds.
Our teachers are performing the duties of caseworkers on a daily basis, providing clothing and personal care items as well as love. And it's sad to say that this is where our society is, but it is. My point this evening is before you all make one more cut to education, before you make one more cut to the safety of our children, please have a conversation. Ask questions of the administrators. Know the facts. We elected you to do that. It's time that we come together as a community, administrators, teachers, parents, students, taxpayers, and put our children first. We continually pit special education against general education, arts against athletics, and taxpayers against teachers. We are here because we want greatness. We want our community to be thriving.
Your time is up. Thank you.
We will never be great without communication.
The next one.
Christy Smith.
Hi, my name is Christy Smith. I live at 818 Parker Avenue. I wanted to talk just a couple seconds about some of the possible budget cuts. Rather than talking about particulars of the budget cuts, I wanted to ask you to please look to some of the community organizations that we have available to us, such as Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, that could possibly take over for some of the St. Vincent fees that we have. The IU has plenty of services that could take over for some of the other things that we pay for. We have the Scottdale Library, which has language services and tons of free material that we actually duplicate here at the school that we could be using for free. I also wanted you to please consider starting to have a per capita tax. Plenty of school districts do this. We are one of few who do not. I know that the borough collects a per capita tax, but the school district does not. I talked to Mr. Marnell about that, and he wasn't sure why. I guess we have in the past, but we don't now. That could be something that could possibly help, and it's for each individual, not just for someone who's financially able to. It's for renters and for homeowners. It's for everyone in the entire school district. If you could also look into the EITC money that you receive. I know that there are so many organizations out there and businesses who would be able to be an EITC business. I know that Mid-Penn Bank offers seminars that you could host for businesses in our community so that they could learn how to be an EITC business and then donate some of that tax money back to the school district. So if you could please look at that. I know that we have a locker room that is bursting full of stuff in the SES. It has kitchen pots and pans and mixers and computers and desks and chairs, and it's not being used other than as a storage facility. So can we sell those? Can we use things like that? I'm just asking that you look at other options. When it comes to cutting sports and low participation things, instead of cutting some of those lower participation sports, can we instead maybe cut 10% from each sport so that those lower participation sports can still survive? Have their boosters cover the rest. Have each of the sports boosters clubs cover 10% of what it is. I am sure that if a parent wants their kid to be in that sport, covering 10% will happen. I know that there's booster clubs that get the sports extra things that aren't necessary to be in a sport. So I'm sure that they could cover these things. So I just ask that you look at other means, free organizations, things like that as you make these decisions. Thank you.
I can answer your question about the per capita tax. I initiated eliminating per capita tax years ago. Per capita tax is a tax on people just because they breathe. Okay?
Right.
And where the big problem rolled in, by law, if you're living and breathing, you got to pay the tax.
Correct.
Okay? And we got into a big problem with senior citizens. You know, senior citizens automatically think when you reach age 65, they shouldn't have to pay it. And for years before I could come here, they weren't paying it. But by law, they were supposed to be paying it.
Correct.
So it was just such a hassle in collecting it and it generated at that time about $35,000. It's a $10 head tax. 5 goes to municipality, 5 comes to the school district. I operated this district for 20 years without it. We never needed it.
Well, I think maybe now we're at that point where we do need it, and $35,000 covers all those low participation sports that we don't have. And we have so many renters in Scottsdale that don't pay property taxes. I mean, we have so many more renters than we used to have 20 years ago or 10 years ago that aren't paying those property taxes. So if we can at least get, I know $5 seems like nothing, but $35,000 a year is a big deal. So I'm just asking that you look into it again and maybe make it an option in the future. Thank you, though.
I would like to add something just to clear this up. Mr. Marnell and I looked into that last year, and because it was dropped before Special Session Act 1, if it could be brought back at all, and I'm not clear from the statute whether it could be, it would have to be brought back by a public referendum.
Correct. I have Representative Warner's office there researching that for us as well to see what kind of referendum we would need to do that for the taxes.
We've never had one in this district, and I believe every one that's been attempted statewide has failed.
I thought he just said we did. Maybe I misunderstood you. We did have one in this district, right?
No.
Yes, at
Yes.
one time.
We had the tax. We've never had a referendum
No,
to approve an increase in taxes because it is considered an increase in taxation.
Correct. Well, and like I'm
Beyond
saying,
the
at this
current
time,
millage and beyond the index.
and like I'm saying, at this time, I think that even though it's a hassle and even though it's never happened before, maybe it's worth a shot. So, thank you very much.
Michelle Akins.
Hi, I'm Michelle Solarczyk Akins. I live at 1817 West Locks Extension. I know many of you already know me. I currently have 3 children at the high school, 1 senior, 1 sophomore, 1 freshman. I began my volunteer tenure as a PTA vice president, made my way as the PTA president for over 4 years, and I am currently the vice president of the Marching Band Boosters, excuse me, and the president of the newly formed Musical Theater Boosters. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the budget cuts in regards to the musical. I wouldn't want to be in your position trying to make the decision where to come up with the money and which programs that other people feel passionately about that you need to cut. I think that's a terrible position to be in. I saw some of you at the musical, so I know you know what a top-notch production it was. Although we're only in our 2nd year, they brought this production to life like seasoned performers. They were really very good. At the cast party, some of our senior members were given a chance to speak, and several of these students spoke of being marginalized their whole lives and finally finding a place to fit in. They're going through horrible things at home, but the musical was the only bright spot in their day. They actually looked forward to the school because they knew they could go to rehearsal afterwards. I know that budget cuts have to be made, but I urge you all not to cut the funds to this program entirely. We're a new booster group. We serve over 70 students. We are one of the largest, if not the largest, group of students, serving over 10% of the high school population. Please give us a chance to become more established before you just cut funds entirely. There are other booster groups that have been around for much longer that would never be asked to fully fund themselves. So much of our current income depends on ticket sales, and that's just fickle. If we have a snowstorm, we're not going to get the ticket sales. If our show choice doesn't appeal to the public, we're not going to have those ticket sales. If we run out of Disney shows to do, we're not going to have the ticket sales. So I just think there are other options. I know from experiences that changes can be made, items can be cut, but I don't think it's necessary to cripple an organization before we really get started. I'd love the opportunity to sit down with administration and other booster groups to discuss the budget cuts and how we can help everyone involved. Thank you.
Dakota Kaufman.
Hello, Dakota Kaufman, 600 Overholt Drive. I want to preface this by saying I'm sadly going to have to leave after citizens' comments in order to work on some AP homework. I know you guys have to do it too. I felt like I needed to speak though, so that's why I'm here. I'm worried about the proposed cuts to all of the student organizations, but the cuts to the musicals and the arts in general really affect myself and a lot of my friends the most. Saying that the musical will be fully self-sustaining is, to be blunt, a very nice way of saying that they're going to have around $15,000 cut from what they're given by the school board. The organization at that point wouldn't really be able to support itself. We could probably keep going for like a year or two, but it wouldn't really be, I don't think it would be a long-standing thing. The instability with that is partnered with the problem. There's a new policy that may be implemented where an organization may only have 2 major fundraisers a year, and at that point also an organization such as the marching band, which is very important to the entire school district and really exemplifies the culture of our school district and how far we've come, it would pretty much it would sink almost immediately. We have a fundraiser pretty much back to back all year long, from June to May. If the plan is really implemented, the marching band will just absolutely be destroyed. And around 60 students, we have I think a little more than that right now, but it fluctuates, will be directly affected, not to mention the cheerleaders and the football players and the student section that love seeing us at football games, because I know I've loved going to football games all 4 years of high school. So it's not just, it wouldn't just be cutting away for the marching band to survive, it would be cutting away for the school to connect and for the students to have a sense of community, really. If the cuts are being made to students so quickly, I personally would think we could be looking at a stricter 707 policy, charging more for dance studios or outside organizations in general to rent out the auditorium or the football field and other facilities in the school. These increased charges wouldn't negatively affect the student body at all, and honestly, I think it would be a great way to raise funds for the school district. I know Mount Pleasant is much more expensive to rent out than our auditorium and our facilities, so a lot of places do come to us, and I feel like there is a way that we can maintain a raise in our prices and our policy and still be the best option to dance studios and other organizations. Thank you.
Alex Kramer.
Hello, I'm Alex Kramer from 7 Moyer Avenue. I would like to discuss today the removal of the building subs, or at least a number of them. So at the high school, on the high school level at least, I'm not sure about the middle school or elementary school, but I know that whenever there's a very small amount of subs for the day, we no longer have a period called IE, which stands for Intervention and Enrichment. Now, this is a time where students are able to meet one-on-one with teachers and discuss maybe a subject they're struggling in, or something regarding their schoolwork. Now, this has become increasingly important with the most recent budget cut of the after-school tutoring. Because that has been cut, IE has become basically one of the only ways students are able to access additional help outside of just their regular class. Now, there are already so little opportunities to get help outside of their regular classes. Students that maybe are struggling in math or are having a hard time writing a 30-page essay for English, their ability to find the help that they need becomes greatly diminished when something like this is implemented. So, my plight today is that though I will be fine, I will graduate on time, I'm confident in that. Who's to say that a child now in kindergarten, or a child that will graduate in the class of 2040, what's to say that they get to the high school and we cut the building subs, and there are no more IE periods? Without the after-school tutoring, without IE, who's to say this student will struggle? What's to say that this student will not probably graduate on time? No two students are the same. No two students think the same, act the same, and learn the same. Therefore, I believe that a cut to the building subs will greatly diminish the academic achievement and the quality of learning that future students, such as the children of high schoolers now, that sort of diminish in quality of learning will be detrimental to their futures and their learning abilities.
Melissa Moore.
Hello, my name is Melissa Moore. I live at 147 Braddock Road Avenue. First of all, there are some really amazing teachers in this room, so I'm going to say something. Don't take offense to it because you guys are great. But I do have some recent comments that were said to some students and a scenario that I'm very unhappy with. I'm going to try not to point out who any of these people are. If you want to discuss it later, feel free. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. First comment, the only way you would be fast at the 100-meter is if there was a donut at the finish line. Okay? I have a problem with that. I hope the overlord comes down and turns you all into slaves to make you listen. This was within the last month. And Mr. Masha, I want you to put your thinking cap on. Last year, a student and his mother came to you about not understanding his project. You said you would talk to the teacher, and I believe you did, but nothing ever happened. Student didn't do project, but somehow the student still ended up with an A in that class. How is that? If you don't do the work, there's no way you can get an A. So why bring this up? Comment 1 was said to my daughter by a parent, a teacher, and a coach. That is bullying at its best. And this is coming from an adult that they look up to. This happened about a month ago, still no sorry said. Instead, the group was addressed as the said coach teacher was sarcastic and didn't mean anything by it. When questioned by my husband, he tried to play it off and said that was never said, concession stand was used instead of donut. Basically calling all the kids liar. You think that's bullying? Do you think the coach teacher's a liar? Oh, and if that person's up for a bonus or raise, I have a dozen donuts over there that you can give them, or you can eat them later. Number 2, this was said to an 8th grade class because said teacher received a bad note about one of her periods from a sub. Really? After looking into it, I felt the teacher was maybe a little off their rocker for saying that. It is actually something to do with a religion, Scientology. So if she can say that, I better not get a phone call if my kid comes into class and starts preaching about Jesus. Number 3, about the student not completing the project. So if you want to make cuts, let's look into ineffective faculty. And again, there are amazing teachers in here not talking about you. Bullying, we don't tolerate, so teachers shouldn't do it. Teachers shouldn't sit at their desk and hardly teach. And maybe some of them need psychological reviews because some of the stuff they said, some of them is off the wall. There's plenty of teachers out there that can do their job or replace them, whatever. So what's the criteria for a raise? Maybe survey the kids. The kids aren't going to lie to you. So, I mean, maybe we can cut that way. You want to cut tutoring. Let's look at the middle school. A teacher told my child 2 to 3 weeks ago that there are maybe 3 students in 6th grade, 12 to 13 in 7th, and 1 in 8th that are on the bubble of failing. You want to cut tutoring? I mean, this is coming from a teacher, so maybe we need to look into the numbers. I don't have facts because we're not able to have all that, but that's something I would look into. Cutting sports. Why take away the things kids enjoy? What constitutes low participation? How would you feel if you were the only kid in that sport and you were getting it cut? How would you feel? Concession stand. If I hear one more thing about a concession stand, I'm going to scream. Problem solved, bring your own food policy. We're here to talk about the budget and the best interests of the kids. There's been plenty of people that ask for building budgets that the community wants to help. We want to figure this out, but you need to help us help you. If things aren't completely apparent to us, we're just guessing. If you can't make ends meet, you need to put your big girl and boy pants on and roll your sleeves up and let's get dirty. Sell the Chromebooks. I don't know where they're at. There's things that we can sell. Parents struggle. They figure it out. You got to do without. I get it. Invest in Dave Ramsey. Maybe he can help figure out what the spending issue is. Also, I'm tired of seeing uneducated decisions. You vote, and then you come in here, and then you ask questions that should have been asked before the vote took place. Please just do your homework and know what you're talking about before you vote, because that vote is substantial. Like, we're talking, I don't understand how we did all these cuts last year, and we're at about a $2 million deficit. How is that possible? That's just not... It doesn't make sense. You cut, but yet everything's rising. $2 million isn't a little bit. That's a lot. Please quit taking away from the kids. I mean, you've already taken away classes like sewing, foods, life management, where we learn how to balance a checkbook.
You have 30 seconds.
Languages. I mean, this stuff's important to them. Isn't there studies out there that that's when violence and drugs come up because you're taking stuff away from them? I'm really proud of all the students that came up here and spoke and actually care. I mean, that should mean something to you. These budget cuts mean a lot to them, so kudos to them for coming up here and speaking.
Your time's up.
Okay. I got it all in there in a nutshell, but if anybody wants to discuss anything that I brought up, I'd be more than happy to discuss it later.
Candace Raymond.
Good evening. My name is Candace Raymond. I live at 231 Buckeye Road in East Huntington. I currently have a kindergartner and a 4th grader in the district. The first thing I did want to address briefly, although Mrs. Williams did an excellent job of discussing it, is the substitute teacher issue. My 4th grade daughter was one of the 75 kids who was with one teacher on that day. I was pretty surprised when she came home to tell me what had happened. And although that day was an extreme, it is not the only occasion this year that my kid has come home to tell me that whatever teacher was absent and they didn't have a sub. It's happened numerous times. And I know that it's a problem not just in this district, but I feel like it's been kind of exacerbated by the fact that we're always not hiring, so teachers don't want to come sub here. And then the thought that we're going to cut the building subs, the only subs we're guaranteed to have on any given day, I just feel like is a really bad idea. We're already short on subs as it is. I can't imagine there's been any day that a substitute teacher hasn't been needed. And so I hope when you're considering, and like I said, like everyone has said, I know there are very difficult decisions to be made, but with the subs and having that many kids, even if it was when the classes are doubled up and you have 40 kids in a class, that's still too many kids to be having in one classroom for a number of reasons. Obviously no education is happening, and then you've got all sorts of safety concerns. So I really would consider keeping the building subs. They're some of the few subs that we have. The next issue that I wanted to discuss is there are plenty of things that have me concerned about the budget cuts that are being proposed, the budget cuts that have already been made. I have lots of concerns and complaints. but I don't necessarily think that that's getting us anywhere. I feel like very recently there has developed an extreme us versus them mentality, whether it be the school board versus the teachers or the school board versus the community. I feel like it's become an extremely adversarial situation, and I don't think it's helpful to anyone. I think there's a significant lack of transparency. I know that we are constantly told that the information is available, but it's not easy to find. And even today, for example, the agenda for tonight's meeting, it's my understanding, wasn't made available until like 2 o'clock this afternoon. If people want to be informed about this information, they maybe need more than a couple of hours to be able to make themselves available for a meeting. I have heard people say that the health of a community is directly related to the health of its schools. And I feel like if we continue down this path where we're constantly cutting, schools are not getting better, parents are disgruntled, it has a negative effect on the community as a whole. So I have some suggestions, and I don't know if they're anything that you guys are even able to do or interested in doing, but the community wants to help, and so these are some thoughts. Something I have heard people complain about or have concerns about is when they address the board. Although tonight seems to be a bit of an exception to this, often people feel like the board doesn't really pay attention or doesn't seem terribly interested, and the board is just waiting for us to get done talking. I know that you have, and for many reasons, I understand the policy where you guys do not respond to individual comments, completely understand why you would not want to get involved in a back and forth debate kind of situation. Something that I thought maybe would be helpful to make people feel like they're being listened and acknowledged is if even after each speaker you took a minute, even just 1 little minute like your timer, to address anything they've brought up. Or perhaps after all of the citizens' comments are done, you take 5 minutes to address anything that was terribly relevant from those comments, just as a way to help the community feel a little bit more like they're being heard and being listened to. The other suggestion that I had, and I, once again, have no idea if this is something that is even possible, but the community wants to help. And so I don't know if it's possible to consider making a committee made up of teacher representatives, administrative representatives, and community member representatives that can help you look at various options. Maybe there, like Christy Smith said, there are all sorts of other resources, programs. I realize you are only so many people, and I realize that this isn't your entire life. So perhaps a committee could be formed that could help look into different options, look into different ways to save costs. Who knows what could come together if we work as a team. I know if such a committee existed, I would sign up for it right this second, and I would work as hard as I could to help this school and to help this community. So if you're interested in ideas, those are a couple, and I hope we can work together to make sure our kids are getting the very, very best education.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
Do you support a tax increase?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes. Approval of minutes?
The board hereby approves the minutes for the March 14th and March 21st, 2019 board meetings, and a revision to the February 21st, 2019 meetings. The word labor was left off of the Finance and Labor Committee.
Just a voice vote, right? Yeah. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
We need a motion.
You need a motion first? You need a motion. We need a motion then to accept the minutes. And the correction. Who made the motion?
Mrs. Smith.
Okay, Mrs. Smith and Mr. Beisel. Okay. Now, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Fund accounting check summary.
The board hereby approves the March 2019 fund accounting check summary.
Need a motion? Second? Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7 and 2 absent.
March 2019 Treasury Report.
The board hereby approves the March 2019 Treasurer's Report.
Do you need a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Carson, second? Mrs. Smith? Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 2 absent.
March 2019 General Fund Budget Status.
The board hereby approves the March 2019 General Fund Budget Status Summary.
Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? None? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 2.
Premium renewal.
The board hereby approves the renewal of the 2019-2020 insurance premium with DeFuria Mongel and Associates.
Motion?
Motion.
Mr. Carson, second?
Did I read that we actually saved some money in the material that I was given?
From the previous year?
Yes.
Yeah, about $5,000.
Yes.
Second was Mr. Beistel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7, 2 absent.
Go to student reports.
Congratulations to March's Scotty Scholar, Alyssa Gaborko, and congratulations to March's Spirit of Southmoreland student, Garrett Ansel.
Congratulations to April's Scotty Scholar, Tony Breo. Congratulations also to April's Spirit of Southmoreland student, Brett Glowacki.
And for May, the Scotty Scholar is Jenna Conti, and congratulations also to May's Spirit of Southmoreland student, Cassandra Shively.
Events from the STEM department. On Saturday, March 16th, students participated once again in the preliminary BOTS IQ competitions against area high schools at WCCC. Returning Southmoreland robots, Anthrax and Fury had some minor improvements from last year. Anthrax took 2 losses at the EWCTC and Punxsutawney Area High School. See damage picture to back plaster. Fury had wins against South Park and West Mifflin and losses to Plum and Eastern Area CTC in the double elimination bracket. Preparations are being made for the 2-day final competitions at Cal U on April 26th and 27th.
On Thursday, March 21st, 19 students assisted and taught 4th grade students basic electricity, circuits and insulators, and conductors in preparation for their science PSSA tests. Under the guidance of Mr. Pollard, Mrs. Pushkar, and Mr. Sherrick, 4th grade students rotated between 4 stations to build circuits, test materials, and see if they are a conductor or insulator of electric charges, experimented with Arduino programming, and got to try one of the high school VEX robots as the high school students did the teaching and guiding. This is just a small sample of what the many elective options available to these students when they reach the high school. Please see the attached picture.
The high school spring chorus concert is this Monday, April 29th. It will feature the chorus chorale, Scotty Singers, and musical arts students. This is the end of the year concert. It is dedicated to the 36 graduating seniors. 3 senior chorus members have been selected for Westmoreland Cultural Trust Awards. Cole Asia has been selected for the Theater Award, and for instrumental performance, Dylan has been selected for the award. And I have been selected for the Vocal Performance Award. An awards dinner is scheduled for May 15th at the Palace Theater in Greensburg.
TFIM news, the Future is Mine hosted the 3rd annual College and Career Fair on April 4th at the high school. Over 40 colleges, tech centers, and hiring employers attended the event. TFIM members did all the planning and organization for the day. They learned how to type emails, make phone calls, and plan out the flow of students. Every student in the high school attended the event and completed a scavenger hunt to fulfill guidance office artifacts that are required for all schools.
TFIM attended the annual conference hosted by the Pittsburgh Conservatorium for Public Education on April 11th through 12th. 14 members of the club attended the conference, which included site visits to employers such as Google, HDR, UPMC, Dollar Bank, and Carnegie Museum of Art to learn about careers and opportunities for employment after high school and college. Students also enjoyed some networking with the other 400 students in attendance at the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. A great trip was had by all.
TFIM members will be very busy this time of year. May 4th through 5th, 40 TFIM members will attend a trip to Niagara Falls. Members have organized, planned, and fundraised the entire year in anticipation of the trip. Day 1 will include all the sights and sounds of the falls, while Day 2 will have stops at Fort Niagara and the Niagara Power Plant.
TFIM continues to meet the goals of leadership development, project management, and career exploration. We have some more notes from our band director, Mrs. Gore.
In addition, Juliana Orr, she is the president of the Spanish Club, I think. She is leading the Pulsera project for the high school Spanish Club. This nonprofit fundraiser sells $5 hand-woven bracelets and mini handbags. 100% of the proceeds go directly back to South American countries, including Nicaragua, and assist the less fortunate communities with the profits. The sale will be from April 29th to May 13th. They are selling 400 bracelets and 15 handbags.
Now to the notes, the music department notes. Read Across America, Dylan.
Southmoreland High School electives provided 10 stations for the students at Southmoreland Primary Center on March 1st, 2019. Kindergarten and first grade students visited the Space Themes rooms filled with activities that showcase the talents of students involved with the electives. There were multiple solar system themed games that challenged students' fine motor skills, face painting and art projects, such as foil relief moons. STEM projects included a virtual reality station and Mars rovers, as well as a station where students could play an electronic music instrument that was built by the staff and students in the computer classes at SHS. And music stations included a giant piano, a composition station using percussion instruments, and a station where music students created a solar system replica that allowed students to experience the sounds recorded in space by NASA and recreated by audio mastering done by the music students. 30 students accompanied Mrs. Pushkar, Mrs. Goodman, and Mrs. Gore. Regarding the musical, the cast, crew, and staff would like to thank everyone that supported the music theater program and production of Disney's The Little Mermaid that took place on March 28th to the 31st. Leading up to the production, the musical cast performed 7 preview performances between the primary center, the elementary school, the middle school, and here at the school board meeting. This year, the formation of the Boosters Group, the musical held its first character brunch, which had over 200 people in attendance. Over the course of the 4 performances, 2,652 tickets were sold. The musical was very grateful for the support of the boosters, school district community, administration, school board, and staff. As students, we are thankful to have this opportunity and hope to bring entertaining and enriching performances to life on stage for years to come.
Dylan Opolinsky represented Southmoreland as a member of the All-State Concert Band Tuba section. He performed under the direction of Dr. Travis Scott from UCLA. Dylan placed second overall in the ensemble. Isla Greenawalt was accepted as a member of the Future Music Educators Honor Symposium. Both students represented Southmoreland admirably and had terrific experiences performing with students across the state and meeting students and educators from the northeastern portion of the states at the convention. This year, the concert band participated in the first ever band invitational exchange concert held at Greater Latrobe High School on Tuesday, April 16th. Other schools in attendance were Laurel Highlands, Belle Vernon, and Greater Latrobe. Our 70-member concert band began the program at 6 p.m. The band performed 3 selections and received excellent feedback from the adjudicator, Dr. Jason Worsbit from Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Regarding the rest of the school year, the band concert will be held on Thursday, May 2nd at the high school. The program is free admission and begins at 7 p.m. with the jazz ensemble. The wind ensemble and concert band will also be performing their finale program this year, and we will be honoring 12 graduating seniors. On May 22nd, the middle school chorus will be performing at the high school. On May 29th, the middle school band will be performing at the high school. And on May 30th, the elementary band and chorus will be performing. The Tri-M Honor Society students and number of band members will be volunteering on May 9th at the Evening of the Arts at the elementary school. The music students will run a music therapy coloring station, a Makey program piano station where students can play their own music through a computer program written by our music students, and create your own egg shaker station where students will have the opportunity to play and keep the instruments they've created while learning beginning rhythms. As students, we want to thank the board for their support in funding and just approving trips, everything like that. We really appreciate that, the support that we get. And we just want to say that 4 seniors this year, next year will pursue a degree in the field of music education or music performance. And that's it for us, finally.
Very good, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Well, congratulations, Dylan, on your fine performance there. I would only ask that we have a moment of silence. I don't know if you're aware that Dr. Saloon, Albert Saloon, had passed away on Monday, April 22nd, I do believe. Dr. Saloon was a long-time supporter, actually was probably the school physician for, I understand, around 40 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 40 years.
So I just ask if you would please have a moment of silence for Dr. Saloon. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, solicitor's information?
You have on the agenda, just to outline this, two resolutions under old business, and they're sort of in reverse order, which is my fault for not making that clear whenever the board docs was being set up. The one it would be to have the building sold by private sale. I advised the board in the past that you have other options that include having an auction and also bids. The other resolution, which is number one, is to award a listing contract. The board had previously solicited proposals, and there are two that were received along with the necessary information, one from Berkshire Hathaway and the other one from Tidwell Realty, both in Westmoreland County. In the event that the board is not ready to make a decision and or wants to consider other options other than the private sale, and is not ready to vote on that tonight and decides to table them, then I would ask that the president call for a resolution to request, again from the realtors, an extension on the decision-making process to, I'm going to say, June 30th, if you decide you want to consider other options. If there are questions on that, I could try to answer them tonight, or if you want me to speak about it again at another meeting in May, I can do that also. I had given you a memo, which I believe has been put into board docs about the procedures for selling school district property. The first step being to declare it as unused and vacant for school purposes, and then to go forward with seeking your method of sale. Part of the problem that we've had is the issue over the legal description, and that issue has been resolved with the small real estate purchase, which I mentioned at the planning session meeting, is complete. You have a deed for it. I believe that that's been made part of the online record. So those would be my comments on Roughdale. And then, as it currently stands, there have been two tenants at the property. One is the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit, and the other is the Westmoreland Community Action. I believe that in discussing this with the superintendent, that we're informed that the Community Action folks are still interested in staying, and so that would be another decision. The recommendation of the administration and myself has been to keep the building occupied until the sale would be concluded for security purposes and purposes of preserving the building and potentially insurance reasons. Do you have any questions from the board? Thank you. Concludes my report.
Okay. So you want me to go ahead and ask for that? We need a motion to...
Well, when you get past your other reports.
Okay. W...
I don't think he's here, Mr.
Oh, okay. I think you're right. CWCTC report? Or WIU report?
I went to the meeting this past Tuesday. They talked about, I guess, a new meeting that started. It's called COLA, which is the Westmoreland County Committee on Legislative Action. They're just now forming, and they're kind of involved in, they want more issues on students' lives, impact, and awareness, and educate the community on how laws affect public education in Westmoreland County. And their next meeting's not till, I think, October. They're working on that. So.
All right. I don't have anything for the PSBA report, and we haven't really done anything with the anti-bullying, so I'll throw it over to you, Jim. School Safety Committee report?
No report this time.
Okay. Okay, moving on, we'll go to old business, Rosedale Building awarding listing contract. Is that what
motion to table it or vote on it? I actually want, number 2 logically would come first if you were going to.
Okay, you want to do number 2 first?
Either to call it up or table it.
So we're going to go to number 2, Rosedale Building seeking offers by private sale. Is it the consensus that we're going to table this? Is that what we want to do? We're seeking other options.
Might as well table because it's a fact. We're not getting anywhere with it right now because we have a rental in there and see what we're going to do with it, whether we're going to retail it or put it out for auction. Table till the next meeting.
Table? Yes. Everybody's in agreement? We need a motion on that? All right. I need a motion then to table number 2, the Rosedale Building seeking offers by private sale.
I think that's Mr. Beistel's made the motion.
Made a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Mr. Fry? Okay. Do we need roll call? Yes. Roll call, please.
You can do it, Max.
Oh, okay. Voice vote then. Everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Now you want to do number 1?
All right. Well, that
Is that
logically has to follow suit.
Okay. We'll do number 1 then, the Rosedale Building awarding listing contract again.
That would be the table because you're not selling it yet.
Right. So we need a motion to table that also.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel, a second?
Second.
Voice vote?
Voice vote. Everybody in favor of that, say aye. Aye. All right.
Do you want to call for a resolution now to authorize me seeking an extension from the Realtors to say June 30th?
Yes.
I'm recommending to the chair that the chair seek a resolution to request from the 2 proposals that we have, the 2 realtors, that they grant us another extension until, I suggest, the end of June on making a decision about whether or not to move forward with them.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
We need a motion on Davis.
We have to do this. I mean, there's no way of getting around it. We have to do it now because of the fact if we don't, the 60 days are going to come in, it's going to automatically roll over.
Right.
Well, no, this is not
for
the
the
lease. This is because we set a deadline to make a decision, which has been extended several times about choosing a realtor.
Okay.
I'm saying that the decision originally was contemplated months ago that it would be made tonight, and the consensus is that you're still not ready to make that decision for a variety of reasons, that we ask them to extend so that it's a consensual thing, that we're not, and if they decide no, then you know where you stand, they're no longer interested. So it's meant to keep that all on the table with them. So it's to extend, we're asking them to agree to extend their proposals
The
to be your
realtors.
realtors to a date certain, I'm suggesting June 30th.
Yes.
Treat that as a motion.
Yes.
Make a motion to do this.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Mr. Porter? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Four to none.
Okay, you ready to move on?
Mhm.
Concession stand?
The board hereby authorizes the administration to post and advertise for outside vendor bids for a food service contract with Southmoreland High School Fieldhouse for all home football and home soccer games, both boys and girls, for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion?
So be it.
Mr. Beistel, second? Mr. Alt? Roll call, please.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
No.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Carson?
No.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2 and 2 absent.
Okay, moving on to new business, Adelphi agreement.
The board hereby approves the agreement with Adelphi Educational Service, Hartford Heights location for the 2019-2020 school year. Programs provide student support in behavioral, emotional, and YES, which is your educational success credit recovery.
Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Fry, second?
Second.
Mr. Porter? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2 absent.
Moving on, how do you say that? Mary Kay?
The board hereby approves the renewal of the 2019-2020 extended school year EYS contract with Mary Kay.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2 absent.
Notice of adoption of policies, procedures, and use of funds.
The board hereby approves the notice of adoption of policies, procedures, and use of funds by school district. This document indicates that your school district adopts the policies and procedures to fulfill the requirements of 22 PA Code Chapter 14 and the regulatory requirements under IDEA Part B.
Motion? Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2 absent.
Pre-K counts.
The board hereby approves the pre-K counts MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion? Alt. Mr. Alt, second? Mr. Vice, roll call, please.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2 absent.
Special budget voting meeting, May 2nd, 2019.
The board hereby approves a special budget voting meeting for general fund fiscal year 2019-2020 and for the purpose of discussion of and voting on changes to preliminary budget and such general matters which may come before the board on Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, 7 p.m., and approves the notice attached hereto and authorizes the secretary to obtain advertisement and posting and directs the payment thereof.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Mr. Carson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Mr. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Alt.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel. Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Yes.
Motion carries, 7 and 2 absent.
CWCTC 2019-2020 proposed budget.
I'm going to ask the board to please consider tabling that. It is asking for a comparison of the 2018-2019 district share versus the upcoming, and I don't believe that we have accurate data to support that, and I'm not willing to make any statement that is incorrect at this time. So I would ask that we wait to Mr. Marnell, because I just got some additional information today, and I would like to compare it with Mr. Marnell.
Is that because of number of students?
Yes.
You got a new number?
And increase in tuition costs.
Did our number go up?
Keep in mind, we're only estimating, but I think it's more so the tuition cost, it was like $6,100, and we got an estimate of $65, and I just want to make sure that everything is correct on the tuition fees.
I think they used the number of students at 50. Is that
Well,
in the ballpark?
They did, but they are also, I just got the overall CWCTC enrollment figures, and I just want to run things by with Mr. Marnell to make sure that they are true. I'm not willing to make a statement that's not accurate. So I ask that we table that.
Need a motion then to, Mr. Beistel? Second. We need a roll call on it, or just voice vote?
Voice vote to table.
Everyone in favor of that, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Resignation of board treasurer.
The board hereby accepts the resignation of Mr. Robert Claro as the school board treasurer effective April 12, 2019.
Mr. Alt, second.
Second. And I
Mr.
would
Vice?
like to thank Bob Calera, because I know he put in a lot of work, a lot of time. Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Alt.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Yes, and I would also like to thank Mr. Calero. I think he did a good job when he was here. He did put a lot of work in, like Mr. Alt said, so thank you, Mr. Calero.
And I would like to echo that, because I did have some conversations coming new into the job with Mr. Claro, and I appreciated his insight.
Custodial resignation.
The board hereby accepts the resignation of Dawn Stacy Ragor, custodian, effective April 26, 2019.
Need a motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Smith. Mr. Alt.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Mr. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Yes.
Motion carries, 7-2 absent.
Resignation of head middle school football coach.
The board hereby accepts the resignation of Jason Vandermeer as head middle school football coach effective immediately, and authorizes administration permission to post and advertise.
Motion?
So be it.
Mr. Beisel, second. Mrs. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alt.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Mr. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Yes.
Motion carries, 7-2 absent.
Van drivers for Quest Coach, Quest Transit.
The board hereby considers the following people as new van drivers for Quest Coach Quest Transit: Marcy Bentz and Julie Duggar. All clearances are current and on file with the administration and with Quest.
I'll make the motion.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Motion carries, 7-2 absent.
Any additional citizens' comments?
My name's Jim Williams. I live at 208 North Chestnut Street. And with some of the discussion tonight, we were talking about the per capita tax. Mr. Porter, I am a fan of yours. I've followed some of the stuff you've done, and I appreciate the work you've done for this school. I tend to differ with you, though, on the per capita tax. And one of the things I find interesting is Mr. Petonic brought forward that how infrequent or that it's never happened that a referendum has passed, yet this board entertained a referendum for special education for a tax earlier this year, correct?
Referendum exception.
Exception.
So you don't have to go to a referendum because the application was made, you exceeded the index, you're increasing it above the index solely for the amount that is mathematically set in the formula. You have to apply for it after you've done the preliminary budget, and PDE has to approve it.
Well, how many of them have passed? Like across the state?
No, I was talking about a public referendum.
Okay.
What the school board did was seek an exception to having a public referendum. Those are sought by school districts, and this school district did seek one. The public referendums to increase taxes beyond the index and beyond any other exceptions. The only information I've been able to get on that in discussing this with PSBA people there is that they have all failed whenever brought up to the electorate.
Put it on the ballot.
And it's on the ballot. Yes,
on the
no,
ballot,
increase
yeah.
taxes by this percent. That's what the way you would see it. To increase taxes by a certain percentage. That failed in Pennsylvania.
But we were entertaining doing that, correct? Or
They were entertaining doing it, and part of the reason for doing so was to be able to seek any applicable exceptions and keep all options open as long as possible, which is what the board did.
it's kind of doublespeak. I understand what you're saying. You know, you're entertaining one referendum, but the other one you're kind of just pushing off to the side. If it came to that,
you're still not getting
Two different things.
It's two different things.
Okay.
One is an exception to the referendum process.
It
that is
doesn't
solely
get put on,
approved
yeah, it doesn't get put on the ballot.
by PDE if you've met the mathematical formula. The other one is beyond that.
okay, well, let's just get back to the fact that is it cheaper to charge everyone $10 per head or to raise their property taxes? Because we're going to raise property taxes regardless. Yeah, I mean, I understand it might be harder to ascertain this, but we are talking a different time. The borough is taking steps now with different ordinances they've passed that I know personally that's to better accountable of the people that are in the rental properties. 40 to 50% of Scottdale right now is rental properties. You have one building sitting there with 2, 3, maybe 4 families, and most of them have kids in the school district. Yet they're paying no tax, other than maybe if they work. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Income tax.
Yeah, income tax, but the per capita tax would be a way to tap that, because it's no different than what they have to pay for the borough. The borough charges it.
I ran in all situations. It was very difficult to collect. Senior citizens will refuse to pay. You're not going to go after someone for $5. So the people who are paying, it's really unfair because a lot of people just won't pay.
So, but this is my perspective of this. If you're going to get, say, $10,000, that's $10,000 more than that you had a month ago. We're talking about nickel and diming these cuts and that. Any little bit of revenue or income is going to help.
No, I understand that, but the whole time I was here, we never had to rely on it. That's why I eliminated it.
Well, this is a whole different situation I think we're in
I
now.
agree.
So we can't just pass up nickel and dime here and there. We're cutting nickel and dime, but why are we passing up any revenue that we could generate at all? Yeah, and I'm glad Christy's looking into it. I'm glad that she's even accepting that challenge. We gotta do whatever we have to do to generate revenue. It can't be just about taxes.
I'm just a little confused on the whole Ruffsdale building. Did you guys agree that it's going to be sold? You're just kind of filling out the realtors, or is that still a question that has to be answered?
The method of sale is yet to be determined.
But you've agreed to sell it.
Not by a resolution, but that was one of the resolutions, so that was tabled also. Those are going to be probably done back to back when the board is ready to move on a decision on the method of sale.
Okay. Okay. Well, my thing is, we need money. This building, I really don't think is a moneymaker, and I hope it's not costing us anything. I hope the leases that you currently have are kind of paying for the maintenance of it. But sometimes you just need to cut your losses and move on. So that's something that I think instead of keep tabling, we really need to look into it and get the money from that building. If you need a realtor at SPC, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but at Read Across America, he's also a state cop, so if you guys want to pass that name on to them, they can look into him. Maybe he can help you sell it. Who was it? Yes, right there. There's a name.
The school board previously had sought public proposals. Only 2 realtors submitted them.
Okay, but I mean, maybe he's an option that you didn't look into that would be good to help move this process along so we can get money.
I'm just saying that there was a public advertisement and we received 2, so the board is going to have to decide whether or not it wants to move with those 2 or seek other proposals.
Okay, well. Also, during the citizens' comment, you asked one of the citizens if she was for a tax increase. I think the majority of us, as long as it's not a Band-Aid and is going to solve our issues, probably doesn't have a problem with a tax increase. However, wham bam in your face, it's going to be this much. Maybe a steady increase over so long would be better. I mean, nobody wants to pay more money. That's just how it is. However, if it's going to help us in the long run, maybe, but not a Band-Aid to cover it up, because Band-Aid was what it was last year, because we're still in we still have issues. Also, looking at the paper with the checks from March, there was a lot of outside legal fees. Is there something that we need to know? You're probably not going to tell me, but that's just curiosity kills the cat, I guess. And also, I want to bring up, I've noticed a lot in the schools that parents aren't aware of a lot of issues. The school doesn't call. I believe if you call in a child and talk to them, whether it be a principal or a guidance counselor, I think the parents need to be made aware of it, because we're not made aware of anything until there's an issue that may be expulsion or maybe suspension, and we're blindsided. Like, I think there needs to be more communication between, if there's even a slight issue, hey, so-and-so had a problem, I'm just trying to make you aware of it. You know, I don't want there to be an issue later on down the road. Not just, oh my gosh, there was a fight today, but this has been going on for weeks, sorry, you're just finding out. All right, that's all I have for now.
Good evening, everybody. Larry Ansel, 161 Lake Forest Boulevard. Everybody knows, I hope, my family has been here for a long time in this community. A couple of things that I'll kind of echo from what I heard from other citizens' comments. You know, I came here in the fall and talked about Chromebooks and technology policy in this district and what was our plan. That's gone nowhere. And this exact topic of Ruffsdale being sold was back in September. Multiple people on this board that I have a lot of respect for growing up, my family had a lot of respect for those people. You run businesses. Would you string along a customer like that? Make a decision. Make a decision. You wouldn't do that to a customer for a business. Make a decision. The second thing that I have a topic about tonight, Mr. Porter, a lot of respect for you. My mother speaks very highly of you. She was ecstatic that you came back and took on this mantle. You were on this board whenever I was a student here. You asked, do you approve a tax increase? I paid about $5,800 last year in taxes in this district. I'm willing to bet that's more than a lot of people pay in here. I own a farm, I own acreage, I own land. The agricultural farms in this district pay a lot more because we own a lot more. Businesses pay a lot more because we own a lot more. I moved back to this district and bought that farm because my kids could go to Southmoreland. I approve, sign me up, yes, I support that tax increase, as long as it's not a Band-Aid. Because last year we dipped into our reserve fund as a Band-Aid to fix this problem, and we haven't done a darn thing for it. Roughstell's a glaring error of that. And the final thing, I said it whenever I was here in the fall, and I'll say it again. My room's 146 at the high school. Ansel L with 3 L's at southmoreland.net. 724-433-0743 is my cell. Call me, talk to me. I have your kids, I have your grandkids, I have your nieces, your nephews. I have them. I'm willing to chat. Please do so. Thank you.
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Because it drives me crazy. I talk to teachers. Teachers call me. I especially got calls when the early retirement incentive was put out there. And
I'm not there yet.
on a $50,000 salary, I can tell you my last year here, we were paying to Peasers, the retirement system, 8%, $4,000 on a $50,000 salary.
Mm-hmm.
What are we paying on a $50,000 salary today? Do you know? Because I'll say up front, when I tell the teachers the answer, because they don't know the answer, they don't know what to say. And it just drives me crazy. When I left, I knew this was going to be the major problem of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea?
I pay 7.5% of my salary.
You do, yes. That's always been, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Honestly, I won't lie to you, I don't know the full story. But I will say this, I also pay 7.5% into my own 403B because I'm not banking on our state pension to be there.
Okay.
If it's there, fan-frickin-tastic. But anybody that thinks that our state pension's going to be there when they retire in 40 years, my mother's taught for 42, they're dreaming something crazy. So quite frankly, I don't know what the school district pays for me. I know what the state does, and I know what I pay. Everything else, great, that's a bonus. But I'm looking out for me, and every teacher should be doing the same. And I hope that I should probably do more homework on that, but I'm young and dumb, right? I'm not quite there yet.
No,
I'm saying that.
That's not the point.
I'm saying that I don't know the exact number to that.
The pension system will be there.
In an extent, yes, but I can tell you for a fact that people that were hired the same year I was as starting teachers versus vested and tenured, they pay more. So that number's only going to go up.
Right.
So our state pension won't be what it is today in 25 years if I retire then.
Well, you know, like I said, on a $50,000 salary, my last year here, we were paying $4,000 on a $50,000 salary.
Sure.
Today, it's $17,000.
Which is ridiculous. And that's a reflection, I think, of Pennsylvania state legislature saying that's a big pot of money, let's tap into that.
No. Decades. They failed to fund it. Decades. For 40 years, they refused.
And that's basic
That's
math.
how the state budget. That's how state would balance their budgets. Instead of funding the pension system over all those years, they reduced the percentage rate. At one time in my career, we were only paying 1%, $500 on a $50,000 salary. Now, with the 2008 crash, they were ordered that they had to raise their rates up to 38%.
Sure.
Okay? That's what's driving the budget here.
I completely agree with you that they will have to be looked at all levels, right? The teacher contract is coming up, and everybody in this district knows that.
No, I don't want to get into that.
No, I want to say that, though, as part of this conversation, because that will be addressed, and that will factor into our overall longevity of the budget. But whenever you last served here, you built 2 schools while you were here before. We had a heck of a reserve fund then.
Right.
We don't now, because I think the Band-Aids that are referenced, I think that there's been a lot of Band-Aiding. We have this money, let's spend it here. We have this emergency, let's spend it out of our reserve fund. We don't have savings that one day we will have to renovate things. One way we will have to make fixes to whatever equipment. That will have to come. And right now, the way that we're going, that will not be there. So I'm asking, just have a conversation and enlighten us. Bill, you know more about it than I do. You have a lot more experience.
In regard to the buildings, okay, that's a good point you brought up, because in discussion with one of the teachers who teaches at the high school, and this is at the end of the conversation, and when he said it, went over my head, because I just couldn't comprehend it. He made the comment that he and a lot of other teachers felt the reason school district's in the situation it's in with its money is because we did all these renovations and never raised taxes for many years, which is accurate. But it's very false, because in 2005, I had the money built into the budget with no tax increase, because I had built up small tax increases for 4 previous years.
Approach to your budget.
In 2005, and then we go to a health consortium meeting at the IU, and bam, it went broke, it was belly up, and we got hit with a 57% increase in healthcare costs, which for us was $750,000 I had to come up with overnight, each year, every year.
Sure.
So in 2005, I was wimping out. I went to Dr. John Hatfield and I said, "Hey, John, renovations are over." Because the 750 just ate up our new debt service. And he said, and I don't want to repeat what he said, "We're going through with it." And we ended up with a 9.4 mil tax increase, okay? And I supported that, and I support it now, because you wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for that.
Where would we be if we hadn't done that?
Exactly.
Hindsight being 20/20 every time. And what I'm afraid that is happening now, my kids that are 4 years old and loved coming to school today, by the way, for Take Your Kid to School Day. Oh my gosh, they had so much fun. I was so tired. But in 10 years, are they going to love coming to school?
That I can't answer.
And that has a lot to do with the communication that I'm begging for. I will not call you to gripe. I will call you with a solution. And I'm not going to call any one of you on this board to gripe. My parents raised me, don't come to a situation with a problem, come with a solution. And we have a lot of people in this audience that are offering some solutions and offering help. I love the idea of the committee, by the way. I don't know if that's possible, but we need to have some better communication, because quite frankly, this side of the room has no idea what's going on, and I feel that this side of the room has no idea what that side of the room needs. Not wants, but needs. I can make do with less. Dan came to me this year and asked, "Hey, what can you do to survive in tech ed? To do all those things that those kids just talk about, the STEM department, TFIM, Bots IQ, what can you do to survive?" We made our cuts. We can do that once. But then what do you do whenever you ask us that multiple years in a row? Our kids don't have electives to take right now. We have seniors that only have to be in school for 3 periods out of 8 because they don't have anything else to do. They fulfilled their requirements for their core classes, and they don't have any electives to take. Because since I've been in this school, the 3rd floor is now empty. If my math is right, 13 teachers have not been replaced due to attrition. We don't have a foods department. We don't have basically any of the family consumer sciences department. I'm teaching a class called Life After High School that my mother taught her entire day at school. We have a smaller number of kids in this district, yes, but the kids that are here, they have nothing to do. Yes, we have good electives that are here, but we're running out of options for these kids. We have to think outside the box. Dual enrollment, Penn State Fayette, 3 Cs, Mount Aloysius, actually make dual enrollment possible. I don't know, give us teachers the ability to do online classes, give us professional development time so that we can actually bring in money into the district by offering online classes. Those are options that are out there. We just have to have a conversation about it. Room 146. I'll be there from 2:30 to 3:30 all next week selling flowers at the greenhouse. Stop out. Had to get my plug in there. Anything else, guys? Thank you for your time otherwise.
Hi, Christy Smith. I just wanted to address again, and actually second Candace's comment about the committee. I think that would be a fantastic idea. We actually have a lot of people in our community who have connections and ideas that can't be heard, either because it's very daunting to come up here and say them to you, or because they send emails and they're not answered, or they come to the school and people aren't available, which is fine. I totally get it. But I think that you do have a lot of resources in the school. I do have a question. Is the pension similar to what a businessman would be paying into his 401k? Is it the same kind of thing? The school pays this much, a person does? So the teacher does not pay into it?
We're making up for decades of the failure for paying in the state and school districts.
Can
In
you
other
say that
words,
again?
for decades, we underpaid the system.
Why?
And everyone knew it.
We, or the world in general?
Statewide. Every school district, it's a state pension system.
Okay, so everyone has this problem.
And the state sets the rates.
So everyone has this problem, and not
That's why
everyone's
Mount
in our
Pleasant-
situation.
That's why Mount Pleasant's 13 mills higher than us. That's why York's 12
Right.
mills higher than us. Derry, 10.
So, and we are still the least taxed in the county, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I am for increases, and I wish that if we had increased every year for the past 10 years, I think we'd be in a little bit of a different situation. I know not everyone agrees with that, but I did polls last year at the Pasta for Protection. Every single person I talked to said, increase the taxes. It's important to increase the taxes. The price of milk goes up every year. The price of gas goes up every other day. So this has to go up as well. So I ask you to please consider that and start talking right now. I would ask for next year to request from the state that we can do more. Just because you request to go above that limit doesn't mean you have to do it. But it gives you that option to increase it more if we're in this position again, or God forbid, worse. So I ask that now you start discussing it so that it doesn't pop up on you again and you just decide, no, we're not going to request that from the state. I ask that you look into those things as well. Thank you.
Catherine Fike, I live in Roughdale. And Bill, you might want to correct me on this, but I did some research. It started in the year 2002, and there was a 3.9 mil increase. Since 2002, we have paid that 3.9 mil increase 17 times. Is that correct, Bill?
Well, it's every millage rate.
17 times. In 2003, taxes went up 3.2 mils. We paid that tax 16 years.
That's the tax rates I'm talking about for the new debt service for the renovation.
We've paid that tax for 16 years. In 2004, taxes went up 9.4 mils. We have paid that tax 50, well, according to my, sorry about that.
Right.
We have paid it for 15 years. That's 141 mil tax increase when you cumulatively. Once a tax goes in, it never goes away. You keep adding it up. In 2011, 1.7 mils, we paid that 8 times. 2012, 1.56 mils, we paid that for 7 years. 2014, 1.35 mils for 5 years. In 2016, 2.2 mils, we paid that for 3 years. And then in 2018, 3.17 mils, which we have paid for just a year. I added that all up together, and it appears to me, unless my math is wrong, that since 2002 and 2019, cumulatively, we have paid 299.52 mils. Cumulatively.
No.
How does that not work, Bill?
then that would, if that's how you want to do it, then that's every school district.
That's right.
And
That's
we're
right.
the lowest millage rate in the county.
And if you look at our low millage rate, we're like 0.1 or something like that. It's so tiny, these rankings. But according to what I'm saying, these are just increases, Bill. I'm not talking about the base. I'm talking about just the increases. They average out at about, over the period, about 18.7 mils a year. That's just the increase, okay? Because once a tax is put on, it never goes away. You keep paying it and paying it and paying it, and they add another one that you add on to that, and you keep paying it and paying it and paying it and paying it and paying it. So I just don't think it's fair to sit there and say we don't raise taxes. It's their bill, 299.52 mils since 2002, just in tax increases.
Catherine, that's ridiculous.
How is it ridiculous?
Okay, let's go from here. Okay?
How's it ridiculous, Bill?
Okay. Everyone's complaining about how the school district has been stripped. Okay. Can you strip any more?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm not worried about 20. I'm worried about 21. What more are you going to strip out of here? Okay. So what are you supposed to do,
I'm not
Catherine?
talking about that.
How much
Bill,
more do you want cut?
Bill, I don't want to cut it. I'm trying to tell, don't say we aren't raising taxes. I hear this all the time. That's my response. You're saying that we're not raising taxes. And this is from the budgets from 2002, Bill. I'm not making this up.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Catherine. They haven't been raised enough since I left.
Well, you can say that, but don't say that they aren't being raised.
They haven't been raised, okay. If you want to play semantics, they haven't been raised enough, okay? It's black and white. This is not rocket science. Since I left, on average, the school district should have raised taxes 2 mils each year, okay? And all the programs would have been here, would have been saved. PCAs would still be here. Nothing would have changed. You would have maintained your educational base.
And they should
That
be here.
didn't happen.
They should be
And
here.
at 2 mils a year, we're right there. We're still below Mount Pleasant. We're still below York. It's not like we're out taxing every other district in this county.
I'm not saying that, Bill. I'm just saying that you're saying we're not raising taxes. Remember, once you raise a tax, that tax increase is paid every year forever. Forever.
Exactly. I know, I'm not disagreeing with that. But I don't know what the point is.
No, the point is that you're saying we're not raising taxes. Now, you said we should be raising them 2 mils. When did you leave? According to this, it's
2011.
It's like 1.5 mils. But, Bill, are you always going to solve every problem with the tax?
There's no 1.5 mils since I left. No.
I have 1.7.
It's been 8 years. 8 years, 2 mils, that's 16 mils. It was 69 when I left. It should be at 85 mils. Simple math.
It's 81.18.
Not now. No, it's 78.
Well, 77.78,
Right now it's 78.
and it goes up to 81.18.
We're not
right?
at 81. We haven't voted on it. I don't even know if there's 5 votes to do it.
Oh, yeah, there is. I don't think that's a problem. Now, I think there are 2 ways to look at income and output. We really need to look at that, Bill.
Well, no one wants to pay more. But I'm sorry. It's black and white. The pension system is what it is. The state says you're going to pay it, you're going to pay it. Okay? Here's what drives the budget. Okay? Everyone gets hung up on athletics and coaches, and they eliminate and spend hours debating it. Here's what drives the budget. Salaries, $350,000. Health care, figure $50,000 more a year. PSERS, which I never had to worry about, average $100,000 a year. Special ed goes up on average $100,000 a year.
Right.
Add 50,000 more for chartered schools on average, okay? 50,000 for transportation, 2.5% contract, 50,000, and your 2,600 count, your school maintenance, figure another 50,000 each year. That's 700 to 750,000 this school board's got to come up with year in, year out. For me, it was around 600,000. That's what I knew I had to come up with every year.
And, Bill, some of those big factors are contracts, are they not?
Yes, they are.
See, there's 2 kinds of things here, problem sharing and problem solving. You can share the problem about pensions till the cows come home. It's a law. You're not going to change it. You got to move to problem solving. And that's where the problem lies now. We need to solve the problems, not just sit and share them.
Your time's up. Need a motion for adjournment? Mr. Smith, second? Mr. Carson, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.